All right, who's ready to talk some Bears football? It wasn't really Bears football, but did have another week of preseason action on Saturday. The Bengals and the Bears at that third-rate dump of a stadium. Looks like a UFO took a huge hulk of crap in the Roman Coliseum and said, let's make the stadium even shittier. That's what we're talking about here. Anyways, it's preseason, so keep this in mind, right? Some of the observations are like just based off of what we saw, like no time to really get panicked or anything, but there are things you can still glean from these games, at least a little bit. Some things you could see that you like or are encouraging signs, and then other things that concern. First thing I'll call out here, I was wondering earlier on in the week with the joint practices that the Bears in particular were going to pull most of their starters, and I'm glad they didn't. Bengals certainly did, right? But the Bears did not. I liked that. However, I will say, realizing it's at Soldier Field where the Park District consistently can't get the fucking turf right, and then you drop rain on before the game, during the game, you're terrified that you could come out of this game with some real serious injuries, and it seems like the Bears were able to avoid that from happening. So I like the thought of these guys getting some tick in the preseason. You hope that translates to the start of the regular season where the Bears are in a little bit more of a rhythm. They've got a little bit more of a lather to them because they've gotten more action in the preseason. Now we'll see how much they play the starters in the preseason finale against Kansas City. I'd hope at least a quarter because, yeah, certainly there's a risk of injury there. It always is. But you can get injured in practice, or you don't play these guys, then you start off crappy. And I think we've seen that in recent years in the NFL where there's been even less of a priority placed upon playing starters in the preseason. These teams come out, especially offenses, and early on it's pretty rough. I'm trying to give it a chance, and I'm still not a fan of this dynamic kickoff. I don't see what's dynamic about it. It certainly is not anything that's going to be safer for the players, because if anything, what you wanted safer for the players, it would be go back to the traditional kickoffs because you have a lot fewer returns. So let's just call it as it is. You're trying to rip off something from another football league and try to make it your own and pretend like it never happened anywhere else ever. And it's kind of like WWE in that sense, right? Pretend like, hey, we're doing it now. We're the first ones to ever do it, even though other places might have been doing it for years. What did I like about this game? I liked the thought of on the first drive starting off the game with 3 straight passes. Now they didn't go anywhere, mind you. You had a couple of like errant Caleb Williams throws, etc. But I like the approach. I like the philosophy of we're going to start off the game throwing, and we're not going to play Bears football because you got a young quarterback. You're going to play conservative and close to the vest is all shit out, and you're going to run the ball a ton. I like that. So even though it didn't really pay off, I did like the fact that they came out throwing. Obviously, Caleb Williams' improvisational ability. This is the thing that you could point to, along with maybe his arm talent, and say this is top-shelf elite stuff. And I would argue his improbability is even more impressive than the arm talent. Like, that's the generational type of talent that Caleb Williams has. There's other things about him that certainly are not generational. I don't know that he was generational as a prospect. However, in terms of his ability to extend plays, yeah, it's special stuff. And in particular, what I really like about Caleb Williams and his improbability is it's improvising with designs on still trying to throw the football down the field. Like, if we want to compare this to a Justin Fields and you say, hey, the touchdown run that Caleb had certainly had some Justin Fields elements to it, it absolutely did. The big difference, though, was that Caleb Williams was still trying to find a guy down the field. He was trying to throw the ball and then kind of took the run as his last alternative. That's the difference. You saw this improbability even on the pass to Adunze, and he's out of the end zone. Like, that's special stuff. Now you want to see Caleb Williams be able to consistently execute within structure, which is certainly a question, right? But the improbability, special stuff. I liked in the game, too, where you had back-to-back touches for Rome Adunze. First, you had the end around You like that where you say, hey, you want to get your top weapons involved in the game. Manufacture touches for them early. Get them interested. And then coming right off of that, it's the deep shot down the field to Rome, and it was fantastic, right? Like, you like to see that stuff. It's the enticing, like, this is why you drafted Caleb. This is why you drafted Rome. This is the stuff they're designed to do in Chicago together for a decade. It's fantastic. Defensively, Andrew Billings and Montez Sweat. Like, there are certainly other questions on the defensive line, which I'll talk about in a moment. But these two guys feel like kind of your cornerstones for your base defensive line. Andrew Billings just already looks to be in regular season form in terms of his ability to stuff the run and to eat up space. Montez Sweat showing some burst off the edge, being a little disruptive. Like, there's one play in particular, he gets in the backfield, and the angle that he takes makes it impossible for Woodside to complete the screen pass. Like, that's nice stuff, really good stuff. Kyler Gordon, Spider-Man, whatever the hell you want to call him, he was shooting his web all over the place. I thought he was going to kill Woodside on that fucking that corner blitz, and you could almost guess that he pulled up and let off quite a bit, which was wise. But the energy he plays with, the physicality that he plays with, the fuck you that he plays with is such a weapon and such an asset, especially from a slot corner, right? Like, you want your corners to be able to come up and tackle and be versatile and do different things. And Kyler Gordon certainly is that, and you saw that on full display on Saturday. Also, the defense was forcing turnovers. The offense was not committing them. Hey, we talk about it. It's corny and it's played out because it's actually tried and true, though, is that one of the big keys consistently about winning in the NFL is turn the ball over less than your opponents. Protect the ball and you'll win games. So you saw the Bears do that on Saturday. Certainly a few things that concern me. That passing offense in the first quarter and a half was not great. And in particular, what's concerning about that is they were doing that against a Bengals defense that was sitting starters. So this is against the second unit, and you're wondering, okay, why doesn't DJ Moore seem to be getting open and getting a bunch of separation? Where is Keenan Allen at? You saw Rome make a couple of plays, but like, what's going on here? Why aren't these guys getting open and getting more separation? Why is this passing game kind of struggling against a bunch of backups? It's a fair question. And then you look at Caleb Williams, and I've watched the end zone all 22 view. I haven't watched the sideline yet, but based off of what I saw from the end zone view, it didn't seem like Caleb was missing open guys all the time, but there were certainly instances. I even think on one of the plays when he was bootlegging, he missed somebody that was open that could have been a big play. And then also in the one red zone drive, you probably saw this on Twitter yesterday if you're on there. They were highlighting that, hey, this looks a lot like Justin Fields where he's passing up the seam for a touchdown. Yeah, right? Like, the difference maybe being JF1 was doing that in year 3. Caleb Williams is a preseason rookie in game 2 for him. But you don't want to see that. And again, it comes down to with Caleb, how consistently can he execute within structure? And every once in a while, even if he breaks down his own structure and makes a bigger play happen, great. But sometimes you got to be able to take the gimme. And that's what you want to see Caleb be able to do. And I wanted to see a little bit more of this passing offense. Not time to panic or anything, but would have thought they would have performed a little better here. Offensively, Nate Davis was terrible. He got sunned by Chris Jenkins on the sack. Nice of Caleb Williams to pretend like he was holding the ball too long and the sack's on him. It wasn't. Nate Davis got mollywopped. He got whooped. And he looked out of place at times in this game. He just looked like a scrub. And you just have to wonder, like, can you really count on him for a variety of different reasons as your starting right guard in 2024? It just feeds into the larger narrative and concern around the interior of the offensive line. Like, are you going to be satisfied with Shelton Coleman at center? Is it going to be Brian Bates mixing in, or is Brian Bates going to maybe take over for Nate Davis at right guard? How long is Tevin Jenkins going to be able to stay healthy? He's pretty good when he is healthy, but how long are you going to be able to count on him? These are all fair questions and all tie into concerns that I think a lot of fans have about that offensive line, especially on the interior. I think Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright look solid on Saturday, but the interior, some questions there. And similarly for the defensive line, like even when the commentators, Adam Amin and Jim Miller, were interviewing Ryan Poles and they were talking about the defensive end position, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, wait a second, I understand you got Sweat, and then you're like, who's your other guy? And I transparently, like, I've always felt the Bears are playing DeMarcus Walker out of position, and he really doesn't do much in this defense. But you feel like a combination of like Austin Booker, Dominique Robinson, Daniel Hardy certainly showing out well in this preseason. Like, they'll have some type of rotation that's not totally scrubby. But the interior of that defensive line is giving me some pause. Andrew Billings will be fine. But Andrew Billings is kind of a one-trick pony, one-dimensional type of run stuffer, right? Javon Dexter, Zach Pickens in particular, these guys were second and third round picks respectively. You know, I see folks talking about, well, I think Dexter's going to be really good. Well, I would like to see that at some point because I'm not in this preseason. Zach Pickens, same thing. Wasn't much of a presence at all. You want to see these guys show out and make some plays happen, and I just didn't see that. And, you know, as exciting as you could be and you say, hey, the Bears have some really nice weapons on offense. They do. They've got a young quarterback to be really excited about with big-time arm talent and elite improvisational ability. They do. They're going to be a team that should be able to run the ball at a high level. Khalil Herbert looks solid in some of his action here on Saturday. With Swift and Khalil Herbert, at least he doesn't trip over his own feet in the open field. Roshan, the Bears will be able to run the ball. That's all true. The secondary looks like it'll be Studley. However, like, you really don't like when your questions are the trenches on both sides of the ball. And for the offense, it's on the interior. On the defense, it's both the interior and the edge. Not a great place to be. Certainly reason for me to be concerned. Just about as much concern as when you spend like $150 on a throwback Walter Payton jersey from NFL Shop and they send it to you and they fuck up the GSH and make a GHS. And you order it and you wait a while before you wear it and you don't really look at it and pay attention to it until you realize they fucked it up! For those of you that saw me wear this once last year and you're like, was that intentional or not? It wasn't intentional on me, damn it! Totally random, I know. But I'm trying to get myself back into the flow of Bears football! Buckle up, bitches! We only got a couple weeks to go to this regular season and it should be a hell of a lot of fun.